Randolph County Farm Bureau Ag in the Classroom program. Today I'm going to ride along with my friend Michael as he shows us how soybeans are harvested. Hope you enjoy the video. How many acres of soybeans do you farm, and how big is an acre?
We farm about 1,100 acres of soybeans, and an acre precisely is 43,560 square feet, which is roughly, I'm going to say, a baseball field. That gives you kind of a close idea of what an acre is. So these beans were planted the beginning of May, and today is October the 1st, and we're harvesting them then. Some beans aren't planted until June and the first part of July if it's a double crop bean, and those beans wouldn't be harvested until in November, late October into November.
So can you describe to us what a double crop bean is? What does that mean?
So double crop is exactly what it means. It means a second crop. And so we plant wheat here in Randolph County, and double crop beans are what's planted in the wheat following wheat harvest in July or June. We plant that bean into the wheat stubble, and we call that bean a double crop.
About how many beans or pods are on one of these soybeans?
So that varies a lot. In a pod, you can have anywhere from 1 to up to 5 beans, typically around 3 beans per pod. Number of pods per plant, I'm going to say it varies anywhere from 40 to 60 in a normal field. If you have a bean plant standing all by itself, it can put on a lot more pods than that. So it varies depending on how many beans are planted, how close they are together.
Why is the header of the combine when you're harvesting soybeans different than the header of the combine when you're harvesting corn?
So if you notice, if you drive by a field of corn, it's in rows that are very obvious. You can tell the different rows apart. Corn head is going to go in between each one of those rows and strip the stalk down and take just the ear of the plant into the machine. A bean plant while it's planted in rows, the rows are a lot narrower. And so we have to take the whole plant because there's beans all the way up and down that stalk. And so the whole stalk of the bean plant comes into the bean head and into the combine and goes through the combine to be threshed out. And so the head has to be made differently because the plants are different. And where the seed is at on the plant is different.
When this field is done, what will you be planting for next year's crop?
So next week we will be planting winter wheat into this field, and so the wheat will follow right behind these beans. These beans are full season beans, not double crop beans. And so behind the full season beans we plant wheat. And so when we get done with this crop and harvest, we will plant wheat right behind it.
With your equipment, how many acres of beans can you harvest in an hour?
I can harvest about 15 acres in an hour. If it's a good square field, not many turns. Sometimes a little more, sometimes a little less.
And where does your grain go after you harvest it?
So we take most of our grain to the elevator in Evansville, which is here in Randolph County, and it then gets loaded onto a barge that gets shipped down the river, most likely to the Gulf.
What kinds of technologies do you use in your combine?
So currently, as we're going through the field, the combine is driving itself. It is using GPS to monitor one pass to the next and forming an A-B line and it follows that line as it goes through the field, so I am getting maximum capacity with the head every pass that I take. That takes less stress off of the operator and allows for me to watch other things rather than trying to just drive. We also keep close track of our yields with the monitor that's in the machine. You can see one monitor that's right here. Another monitor that we have is behind me. I have an iPad that is Bluetooth to the machine, and it is reading pass per pass, acre by acre, how much this crop is making, moisture, volume, the speed that I harvest at, just about everything you can think of. It is keeping track of, so I can analyze that later and use it to benefit our business.
What are the different kinds of uses for these soybeans?
So for around here, a lot of the beans will be made into soybean meal, which would go into some animal feed. Also goes into biodiesel that we put into our diesel trucks and to our diesel equipment. There's also all these different type of oils and vegetable oils and different things that have parts of soybeans in them. The oil that comes out of the soybean. Your crayons, that type of thing, some of those have the oils. Your candles, those sort of products that have some sort of oil base, depending on the product, will have soybean oil in them.
So here we have 4 different ages of soybeans for us to show you today. Here we have a younger soybean plant. It's about maybe 3 or 4 months old. And as you can see, it's really green. It has a lot of leaves on it. And here we took off one of the beans from this plant. This plant's nowhere near ready. We really want them dry before they can combine them. So the beans for this plant, as you can see, are really wet and not dry pods that they are in. Whereas the rest of these get drier and drier as they get older. This is the next step. It's getting there. It's still got its leaves on it. So as you can see, it's not quite ready to be harvested because it's still pretty green. And you want to have it at a lower moisture before you bring it into the mill or wherever they're bringing these soybeans, so that they can ship them places and not have to worry about mold and stuff like that. Here we have another soybean plant that looks really good and really close to being dry. At the bottom though, there's a lot of green stuff. You could probably combine it though if you wanted to. It might be a little bit too high on the moisture. And so sometimes whenever a plant has too high of moisture and you bring it to the landing place where you unload it at, you'll get money taken off whenever you try to sell it. Here we have one that's completely ready to go. It is all the way dry and it is more than ready to be combined. So these are the ones that you want to combine and take straight down to where you're going to sell them at. And here we have a pod that we took off. So these little soybeans here were supposed to be inside this pod, but they fell out because that's what they do. And they're much more dry than the other ones. I can't even pinch these ones, where I can pinch that one open and it just busts open because it's so wet. So these ones are ready to go.